Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have no public hearing. We have no delegation. On adoption of the agenda, I'd like to add a 4.1. Mr. Scheer, Bob Scheer, to address his questions and concerns about the garbage pickup. Is there any other additions from anyone? Hearing none, somebody wish to, Lyle moves the agenda as amended. Any question on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Scheer, have a chair and...
Okay, things have changed. Item number 1 on that letter, you can scratch that one because Nancy and I got our wires crossed. She was telling me that there was only one, like there's 2 charges on your utility bill, a transfer one and a waste pickup one.
Right.
The transfer one everybody has. The waste pickup one is for, town going around picking it up. So number 1 here, Nancy had told me that Baker Hughes was getting both charges, and we got our wires crossed. I think she was looking at the utility statement for the West Fulton building, which is on the same road. Eh? So we can throw out number 1 because it's okay. Baker Hughes has a bin, and they're not being charged the pickup charge, just the transfer. So that one's out of the way. But the other one is that building where it had the water problem. And I want you guys to consider, apparently, there's four units in there, 4 bays in that one building, but garbage only gets picked up in the one corner, the southeast corner of it, and everybody's been using that site. So ATCO will stay using that site, and we'll take the charges there. But I want to get a bin from Darwin, same guys that provide it for Baker Hughes, and I want to put it at the north end of the museum warehouse there for the other 3 parts of that building, the old advocate spot, the dentist office, and the chiropractor, because they can share that bin, and I'm going to let the museum's just going to get to use it. Because the way it works is Hobart, you pay when you have a bin there, then you don't pay until he comes and picks it up and takes it away. So I think that won't occur for 3-4 months probably, unless people come and just use it, which is okay too. But that's what I want to do. And I want the town to consider that one building, it's only one building. And we'll leave the ATCO gas one in the southeast corner, but I want to get it, if you'll go from 4 charges, pickup, waste pickup, and transfer on each of those bays, and I want to use the north 3 for just that one bay. So there would be 1 transfer there, a transfer from the other corner of the building that's still right now being garbage. So you're going from 3 to 1 on the north end of the building, I guess is what I'm asking for. If you're worried about setting precedents, I don't think there's too many other buildings in town that are multiple tenant. Maybe the one in the little mini mall there. But other than that, I don't think it would be a precedent.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do some looking into it, because like people at the fourplex might say the same question. Or like we have 4 fourplexes, and how many duplexes we have.
That's residential, that's not commercial.
Yeah, but we're going to get an argument that they're going to be same with 17 Sweeter. Is that classified as residential, or is that classified as a commercial operation that rents out 17 units?
Me, it's residential, but
Yeah,
so
I'm not saying it isn't, Bob, but I think we need to look into what it's going to cost, because theoretically, wherever that cost is allocated, we're going to have to increase it to everybody else.
Right.
To make it so that, if, again, let's say that, I'll just pick on a fourplex as an example. If they come back and say, we want to go down to 1 and we're going to put in a bin, and we're going to pay 1 transfer site instead of 4, and what it's going to cost us in the whole community, So I think
I
we're.
follow you, I follow you.
So, again, I'm not saying that it's not a good thought or a good process, but if they say, well, it's good enough for commercial, why isn't it good enough for residential? And so, again, I'm not trying to say that we're not opening a can of worms, but I think we want to make sure that we look at it and say, if we do all this,
Yeah, I follow that.
then what's it going to cost everybody, which is understandable.
I
to
follow
say.
that. But with that in mind too, Tom, I'm not asking for, I could be asking for, I could put a bin behind my office and the office next door, which I own too, right? I could be putting a bin there and asking for this, that, there too, but I'm not. I'll
Right, no,
take the 2 charges there. I could be asking for 1 for this whole building,
Yeah.
but I'm not, I'm asking
And see,
for
that
2.
there is another way we can go around it too, is to eliminate that transfer site cost to everybody in the community, all of them, and just put it on general taxation and raise taxation on everybody, to compensate. And that's what some communities do, in our
Yeah.
county, is they
Yeah.
don't have that, they don't charge for garbage pickup at all. It's all calculated in general taxation.
And we're all different. Fernie's different than here too.
I'm sure.
Very too.
I'm just going by what's going on in the county because we all belong to the waste authority. And, so I know the other villages, there's a couple of them that don't charge for any garbage.
Well, I'll leave it with you guys. I'm
Yeah.
trying to reduce my costs on that building. I got a vacant spot in there and I'm paying, like $90 for a vacant spot for garbage removal every utilities thing.
Yeah.
And there's solutions. There isn't enough garbage comes out of that whole building
Yeah.
for anything. And you still would be getting 6 out of 8 commercial spots, charges every month out of me for my commercial property.
Yeah, and I know one business that doesn't get any garbage pickup at all, nothing. They don't have a bin, they don't have nothing, and they pay the transfer
fee.
the $45. And because there's 2 businesses in there, they pay $90. I know of another business that has that, but they don't pay anything. They take their garbage home.
Yeah, I take my garbage home downtown too.
Yeah.
So,
But again, that's another process that we could, and it was just an idea I just had, is that, drop all of that off of our garbage and, no pickups, no nothing to anybody, just add it to general taxation. And then nobody can complain about, whether they get picked up once a month or they get picked up every week, It just
Well-
comes out of general taxation.
I hope you can get there one way or another.
It's just that, on that one there, then we'll raise the taxation to everybody, to compensate for the garbage that we take out of that
So
service.
if you do this, drop it down to 2 for the whole building, 2 transfer sites, you're losing 2 transfers.
$90 every quarter,
Yeah,
or every 2 months, correct?
yeah.
And based on the letter that Nancy sent you, Bob, she kind of outlined that if you got a bin for that building, you would only get the one,
One transfer charge.
yeah, you'd get the transfer charge for all 4, but that's based on the development permit for that building, right? When that building was put there and went through the process, it was for 4 businesses.
Yes.
So her suggestion was that, if you wanted it to go down to 1, then there could be a change in the building as well. But if you want it to remain for business, I guess the statement I'd like to make is currently it's not generating 4 pickups. And that's what you're trying to say, but that doesn't mean that you're not trying to rent it, that eventually will be 4, right?
Yeah.
The use of the building is for 4 businesses. So that's why the 4 transfer charges.
Yeah.
It's the same as your 4 meters for water and your 4 charges for sewer.
That's original, but I'm trying to get it to go to, I would accept 2 charges on it. Really, I should be arguing for 1.
And then that's a
Only one
change,
site.
and that's a change in use of the building. And that's what she outlined in the letter, is to bring that change of use.
But there is no change in the use of the building. 3 of the tenants haven't changed. It's
No,
just
no,
a
But
vacant.
it's still 4 offices, and the original development was for 4 utilities, 4 offices, and that hasn't
Well, then
changed.
why didn't you give me 4 separate water meters that I could have shut off?
There's 4, well,
No, there isn't. There's only 1 intake for the whole building.
Yeah, but there's 4 water
there's 4
meters.
water meters
4
inside.
water meters.
Right,
Yeah,
but only 1 service to the building.
Yeah.
So it's like the 17, well, can't use the
17
17
Sweeter has 1.
One water.
Water line,
But I mean,
yeah.
but again, I'll pick it up the fourplexes. Some of the fourplexes only have 1 water line in, but they have 4 meters,
Yeah.
some of them.
And we're kind of getting off topic, we're back to that water problem, and really, I'm just here for the garbage.
No, I appreciate that, but I mean, it's something that we should do some number crunching on and do some, and say, you know, because we have some residents, and I appreciate this is commercial, but we have some residents that complain that, you know, they never take any garbage to the transfer site, so why should they pay the $45? If we hide it, it's not there, just take it out of general revenue, everybody's taxes go up, you know, $200 a year, they're gonna pay it, but their taxes went up $200 a year.
Yeah.
So they don't pay it on their water bill, or on their utility bill, but they pay it out of general taxation. So some will pay more, because it's based on your assessment. So Granny might only, that lives in a, you know, an old 90-year-old home, pay $5 a year in taxation, and some of the businesses might pay $300 a year in taxation.
Yeah. So you're talking about having to change your whole system on how you look at it.
It's an idea, it's a thought to eliminate this question of. Right now, we try to tax, or we try to bill on transfer site and collection, transfer site for sure, on every business and every resident in our community. If we go to the process of trying to eliminate that transfer site.
But, okay, but you know what? Pete's Beat Off uses the back end that used to be the kids' jam holiday behind the
Right.
chiropractor, and he pays me $100 a month, and that should actually be that should be $5 then, you know?
But theoretically, do we know about Pete having that business there?
I never told you, but.
Well, I
see,
thought you just did.
Well, I just did, but, I'm paying, there should be 5 charges there then instead of 4.
And see, Bob, that's exactly why things like new businesses going to building have a change in development permit. So it's the same conversation when somebody starts a business at their home. It goes to the MPC to add
Yeah, change use.
conditions. So your building, now that you've just said Pete's in there, you're absolutely right, it should be 5, but that should have went as a change of use in the building. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we go by the information we have.
And we appreciate, Pete might not generate any garbage.
No.
And he might not generate any use of water either, I mean, from what he's using it for. He's using it strictly for storage or whatever. But theoretically, how do we,
How do you share it equally?
yeah, how do we make it so that it's fair to everybody, and so that everybody just doesn't move their business to their home?
I know,
And
but I'm arguing though, Tom, that it's kind of overkill here, the way, for what's actual usage out of that structure.
Yeah.
Currently.
Currently, and we appreciate that, but I mean, if, again, some businesses, some tenants produce lots of waste, and some produced zero.
Yeah.
And how do you govern that? I got a guy who lives across the alley, and I appreciate as a resident, you know, there's one person living there, and he produces more garbage than Joan and I will produce in a year, once a week.
Yeah.
So how do you govern that? And that's what we're getting. We get complaints from customers, that residential, that say, you know, we go south for 6 months. Why are we paying for that? Because we get billed it.
So if I put a bin there and told ATCO that they have to use the bin, they can't use their own spot anymore, please use the bin, then I'm still technically gonna be 4 transfer spots
Right at the moment,
and
zero
pickups.
Zero pickups. So, yeah,
But I'd rather let ATCO keep using their own spot and let you guys get a second place out of that site to get 2 instead of 1.
you know, I think personally, and I don't mean to dominate it from the rest of the council, but I think that we need to, you know, weigh all of them and see, you know, if we did this, would it affect our bottom line?
Okay.
And I think we should look at, if we eliminated them all and just put it on general taxation, what would that generate?
Exactly.
How to do that so it affects, you know, each individual resident?
I'll leave it with you.
And try and come up with some numbers before we make a decision, because, you know, we always felt in the past that trying to make it as transparent as possible, it was the better way.
Yeah, I like that too.
But on the other hand, we do get a lot of people say, well, I generate no garbage, you know. But yet, you know, we get charged for the transfer station.
Yeah, I'm not arguing on the transfers, well, I guess I am. To get from 4 to 2,
That's why change of
But
use.
I'm trying to leave you one. And as far as change of use, there really isn't any change of use, there's just one vacancy, so.
Right.
Yeah, but you could amalgamate the whole building into one when we have one business in that whole building, but you can't do that because you got 4
Oh
businesses.
yeah, I'm trying to sell it to the dentist, but he's not, like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work.
Yeah, that's why Bob Creek is, and I.
See, he's gonna build on that lot across from West Fulton, south across. Dennis is gonna build there, and then I'll have half-empty building.
So, the idea behind that is with what you have for, when we pull the land file for that property that you have, it's designated for 4 businesses, so it doesn't need to go to MPC or council for any conditions. You can put businesses in there. You could have businesses in there that generate a large amount of waste or none, but there's no conditions attached to it. If you wanted it down to 1 utility, then that's a change of use, that sort of thing, so.
Which were, yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you want that 1 pickup, but there's no change in use. But because our land file says that, you could rent the thing tomorrow to somebody that generates more garbage than anybody downtown,
Yeah,
and you wouldn't have a pickup for
yeah,
it.
could happen.
Could happen, you know,
Could happen.
currently, that's the thing, currently you don't have the use for the building, but you don't have to come to the MPC or council to apply for garbage pickup to put any business in there, because you have that use for it being offices and.
No, I've come to you to try to reduce my garbage costs on this, right? Any which way you can do it, so.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to leave the ATCO gas one in there, the one, because they're the ones who use that southwest corner. Southeast corner.
Okay, well, thank
Right.
you very much. Anything from anybody else? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nancy was worried about a precedent being set, but I don't see developers lining up to build commercial, retail, multiple unit places here, so
yeah.
I don't think a precedent is a problem.
Well, we still have it over on the, there's 2 other ones that have, one has 3 and one has 4. On,
Yeah.
you know, that,
Has the R-Man building got more than one retail in there?
no, I don't, I believe he's only, as right now, he's down to 1 business.
Ari West has several businesses in it.
And is there 3 businesses in Mini Mall South Building?
Yeah, there's 3 in one and 4 in the other one.
3 in one and 4 in the other.
Yeah, so there would be another one that would,
Yeah.
you know, might,
Well, I'll leave it with you, I just hope you can save me something.
Another one would be like the Cedar Vista, because they have the office buildings upstairs, that sort of thing.
and that
They
building's
were-
split in
yeah,
half too. You
So
know,
they get billed for both,
Yeah,
For 3 probably.
and the ones upstairs have been vacant
for
for.
years, yeah. So there's all those things to consider in that.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll see what we can do for you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to 5, which is adoption of previous minutes. Any questions or errors or omissions? Hearing none, somebody wish, George Lee? Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? That's great. Great, thank you. And moving on to 6.1, which is unfinished business, which is my fault that we never had a motion to
I didn't catch
move
it.
forward on this one. So Kim and I did discuss it. I haven't had him sign the 3 copies yet, and haven't got you guys all a copy of the evaluation. But we just need a formal motion to go ahead.
Make the motion.
Okay, Paul moves. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, financial statements, you all got an opportunity to hear about them today, but we have none for tonight. That was because we normally do the 2, but we do it at the end of the month, and last month we did it early because we only had the 1, so. Okay, so moving on to correspondence, there's 5 there. So we'll start off with Canadian Badlands. Is there any questions on any of it? Okay. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, Kim just asked us to, we'll add another one to that one, which is VBDS here in a second. Okay, moving on to South Grove. I see they're losing their CEO or whatever they position they call them. Okay, Chinook Arch.
See, the county has very good representation in
Yeah.
it. 3 out of 10?
Okay, and moving on to the letter to me from the minister. This is, obviously there was quite a bit of questions about that program, and I'm sure that we will utilize it as much as we can, but I don't think we're gonna qualify for much.
Very, very few that qualify. We can, community recreation and culture maybe.
Okay, and then the last one was the one that Kim sent out kind of a question on to everybody about this from Darren Davidson, which we probably should make a.
No, that's in, it's
Oh,
the VBS, sorry.
Pardon?
VBS. Oh, sorry, that's those.
Darren
Darren Davidson.
Darren
sorry.
Davidson's. That was that one, that turnout
Yes.
question on
The signs.
the
The
signs.
signs.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether the county has discussed theirs about what they might want to consider with the sign.
They didn't do anything official. They requested, or the notification that they sent back to Darren is that they were in favor of removal or relocation if the town thought there would be a suitable spot in town. Now, they didn't talk about anything about upgrading or redoing, or it was if there's a suitable spot that they should be moved, that's where it should go. So the conversation that went through council through the email was in support of relocation, but there was also an awful lot of talk about redoing the signs. Now, one of those, the map is not ours, so if we would like to do something like that, that would be a new project that would require funding. And the one that we installed was the 9 in the line. So
I stopped at it, I didn't think it looked that bad.
the 9 in the line one?
No, well, I didn't think either one looked that bad. I mean, the informational sign has, a couple errors in it, but I didn't think it was that bad. But I thought both of them could be relocated and it wouldn't be offensive. But
So that's where it was for discussion.
I think what transportation needs to know right at the moment is if we have any issues with them,
Removing them.
removing them. What we do with them is,
Up to you guys.
we could discuss it at a later point, or if you want to discuss it now. Wow.
I think I brought up a point in my email, just if we do, I know this is something that the chamber was looking at, something like that. Maybe if the town, partnered with somebody like the chamber, maybe someone like that can get a grant to help pay for that, to get money for that, just so the town doesn't have to carry the load of the sign, if that's the way you can work together, or maybe not just the chamber, or maybe someone else.
So I think what we could do is give administration direction to look into locations and whether we have to do upgrades to the signs, and then also send a letter to transportation, agreeing upon removal of the signs and getting rid of the garbage cans, and doing that turn off out properly. I think that would be pertinent, and then that way, then they're not going to do anything with that until spring. All they need to do is forward it so that engineering can say, we're not going to worry about this turnout, it's just going to disappear, and make that approach properly.
Improve the deceleration lane.
Well, really, yes, yeah. And I assume they're probably going to do it on the acceleration lane on the other side too, but we haven't heard anything on that. I imagine it'll come back later. So if that's agreeable, then that gives administration opportunity in the near future to discuss with, the tourism department and the county, and say, well, maybe the 9 in line sign would be adequate to move in behind the 9 in the line building. And the other sign could go, if it even goes over the Petrocan side, that's on our property. Unless we put it out on the back side of the Petrocan, then it becomes a county, but you'd have to go back to the back borders.
So we could put a motion, council could put a motion forward to send her a letter of to Alberta Transportation in support of the removal of that, of the signs, and direct administration to look into relocation of the current sign.
Yeah.
Signage. That allows some time to put together a decent report for
Yeah,
you
bring it back.
to make a decision on where you'd like to locate it and whether you want to invest some money into, or allow us to partner with
Right.
somebody on
Upgrading to-
upgrading to a different type of sign.
Does that sound fair? We can do it probably all in one motion.
Yeah.
If somebody wishes to make it.
Awesome.
I'll pick Laura. Okay, any question or discussion on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, now we'll move on to, I suppose we should have added it earlier, but under correspondence to, there was that letter that or the information we received. We haven't received an official letter from VBDS.
This is the official press release that was sent out. There has been nothing actually signed and sent to the town, but this went out on social media and, or is currently being circulated in our community. So I wanted to make sure that it was added to council for your information. Again, this is not, I haven't seen anything signed by the committee, but this is what's out in the community, so. I'm sure, yeah, has everybody seen a copy of this?
That's first for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want to move to receive for information use?
Well, it's gonna affect us, according to the way the media releases, is that if you have some development issues, you get a hold of each municipality indirectly. So who are we gonna direct it to in-house?
I feel a short straw coming on.
Kim's list.
Yeah, we talked about this today, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So does this mean that the board's dissolved?
No.
This just means that they're closing the door of the location. So,
To dissolve the board, I think you have to go through a different process. And then to dissolve the society, which has never been discussed, is even harder. You have to-
it's a process and application to the province.
Right.
So this is just for the information of and how the board of directors and that proceeds with VBS is up to the members that sit on that board.
And I'm assuming that probably why we haven't received anything is because the chairperson's away. And this got out before the chair got an opportunity to sign a copy and send it on to all municipalities, I assume.
So I just wanted to make sure that everybody had seen it, in case you get asked about it on the street, because this is actually what went out to the public, so. Thank you for letting me have that.
Yeah, we can just accept it as correspondence under informational line. I think you're right, Paul. And then, once we get the official one, we'll follow it up with
Direction.
directions. Okay, so correspondence, is there any question on any of the 6 items on correspondence? If not, somebody wish to file it?
I'll move.
Okay, all moves. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, committees. There's only a few you there. Any questions on the first one?
I did have one with Badlands. I was rather curious as to why they were concerned about grass fires. Seems a little off from tourism.
I honestly don't know.
8.0. It just seemed odd.
Well, I know why. Because there is a question there, and because of the amount of land that was lost in some of those areas in the Cypress and the MD of Willow Creek, or MD of County of Wheatland County, MD of Acadia, is that they feel that there was a loss in financial gain to those municipalities because of the large amount of land that was lost in fire. So, I think that this is an opportunity for them to start setting the seed that if something like this happens again, is that they're gonna go back after tourism dollars, back to the municipalities or to the government.
Okay.
That's the way I read into it. Because it says, the draft letter requesting compensation for losses incurred during the fire earlier this year to be sent to municipal affairs. So, I think that they're more or less saying that, they're supporting the actions of, to affect tourism plus those other people. So that's the way I read it, Paul. But any thoughts on that, or?
I'm just interested in the word carbon copy, I haven't read that in a long time.
Okay, and then moving on to the mayor's reviews, which we did discuss at the last. I didn't make it to the mayor's reviews on Friday. I got detained with a tour that took me longer than I anticipated, so I didn't feel making it down there in a timely fashion, so I didn't go.
I apologize.
That's okay. But Stacy was there, Hub Day, and he said that the majority of the meeting was held up because of the discussion about the bantering between the MLAs that went on at the December 1st meeting. And so he's not sure what's going to come of that. Because there was quite a discussion between Pat Steer and Marie Fitzpatrick. But any other questions on mayor's reviews? Okay, moving on to MPC, which we'll address in some of our stuff later, but. Okay, somebody wish to, verbal ones, I guess. Shelley, do you have any to?
No, nothing between all of these.
Okay. Laura?
We had tourism on last Thursday, and it was very productive. Actually felt like we made progress. Did what's that thing called?
Wish list, yeah.
Yeah, we brainstormed some ideas for priorities for what we want to see accomplished in the next year. Actually felt good. I felt like we got something done.
Okay. Anything else?
That was it.
Any questions for Laura? Hearing none, Lyle?
Just, I guess since our last meeting, just the Municipal Planning Commission, where we discussed the solar park. And, well, I guess we'll be talking about that later. Today, that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Lyle? George Lee?
I was also at tourism. We did nominate Gloria Hewitt to sit on the hiring committee for tourism. So she will be on that board. And that's about it. Did the town tour. I have rec this week and the meeting with the county on the industrial land. That's all I.
Okay, any questions for George Lee? Mr. Taylor?
I was same ones that Lyle was at, so we won't belabor that.
Okay. Any questions for Paul? Hearing none, so then you've got your report, so now me, the only one I was at was the industrial one, same as George Lee and the rest of you folks. And I think that everybody got a copy of the study itself, so you had an opportunity to go over it. I'm sure that we'll have it'll either probably be on our agenda for the February or March,
To review the final.
where we'll have come back with final, but you heard today again, the big push is to do some collaboration and work towards, moving in a cooperative action. Well, I think this is an example of cooperation and collaboration, and so it might affect the IDP and those two plans that have to come up. But other than that, yeah, no, that was it for me. So, any questions for me? Okay, hearing none, somebody wish to move the committee in reports? Lyle? Any question on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to bylaw policy. Amendment policy for the CPO policy. If you had an opportunity to read it, it's not, they're very little, it's just a couple wording and form numbers, I guess, isn't it? It's not really the wording, it's just the form number that's.
The form number on the one, the wording on the other one was to remove the complaint or community
right.
peace officer may appeal. Peace officer can't appeal his own thing, so they found that through, they did a fine read through and just suggested a couple amendments, which Justin would like to bring forward. So rather than redoing the entire document and having you guys read through it and see if you could find these changes, he laid them out just in the three amendments. So if council's happy with that, you can just amend the policy.
Okay, so any question on the amendments, or if not, somebody wish to? George Lee? Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, and then the next one is the the amendment to Prairie Vista Estates Area Structure Plan, bylaw number 135808. Go ahead.
And because these are bylaws, you need a bylaw to amend an area structure plan, and you also need, part of this with the recommendation from the MPC was to amend the land use bylaw to allow solar in the area. So these are the two bylaws that are bringing forward. Because both of them are statutory documents that we talked about today, they both need to have a public hearing. So you can just do the first reading today, and then you'll have to advertise, and then the public hearing, and then you can do the final two readings if you'd like to move forward. So. And
Okay.
the documents are strictly that, to amend the area structure plan to allow for the solar park to go into that area, because the area structure plan designated as residential first, so they split it into phases. Phase 1 is the solar, phase 2 is the residential, and then the second one is the change of the land use bylaw to allow it to be direct control with the stipulations that the MPC recommended. If and when it's approved, it will have to come back to council for certain conditions to be put on.
Okay, so the first one in front of us is the
Area
draft
structure plan.
area structure plan to change it.
I'll move the first one.
So Paul moves this one, and the public hearing will be on February 12th for this one. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to amendment of land use bylaw 1437-15. Okay, so again, if we approve this tonight, it will go to a public hearing on February 12th, which gives the public an opportunity to have their input into it. And so this, again, it's zoned right at the moment, transitional agriculture, and the proposal land designated as under direct control. For those that don't understand what direct, or don't know what direct control is it allows the council to put the stipulations in on it. Yeah, go ahead.
So the land use bylaw allows regular use on a piece of property. So a normal house, or a normal lot can put a house in with 5-foot setbacks, 15 on the front, or 25 on the front, 15 on the back. If those come, the development officer can approve them as they are. If you put direct control on a piece of property, it means anything that has to do with that development permit comes to council for approval. So that's why they're suggesting making it direct control, because that gives council the opportunity to have a detailed, in-depth conversation with every portion of how this development will move forward.
Okay.
I should probably speak to this as I was on NPC and I voted against this coming to council. My reason for voting against it, at the time, I'd been in Medicine Hat and I came back on number 1 highway by Brooks, and all of a sudden I saw all these solar panels just out along highway number 1, and I thought, well, that's cool, but I didn't think too much of it later. And then I saw an article in the Brooks Bulletin how one landowner wanted the panels moved because it was in his line of sight and it wasn't very appealing. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, as a realtor, I don't think I'd like that in my backyard. And but after our tour and learning more about it, and just when we have more control on it, like having a berm and trees there where they aren't as, I guess theoretically won't be as much of an eyesore. I'm actually leaning more in favor of that, because before I just thought that's, it's a great thing to have, but not in my backyard. But now that it's, like I say, if we have a berm and we have control over how it's going to look, I think solar energy is a great idea, and we could be setting precedents on this as long as it's done right. And that's why I'm going to be keeping a close eye on it. So that was my reasoning for voting against it before.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, somebody wish to move the first reading?
I'll get you off the hot seat. I'll make that motion.
Okay, Paul moves that first reading of bylaw number 1470-18.
1437.
I got 1470-18.
17-18, sorry.
Here, I got it, one spot was a different number.
It's still amend that bylaw.
Well, I did. Okay, so the new bylaw number is 1470-18. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Just on that, while we're looking at it, if you look at the aerial structure plan one, it's at 1358-08. 08 was the year that it was done in, so it was 2008. So for approximately 10 years ago, that bylaw was put in. And now this one, the second one that we're amending, which was the area structure plan, land use bylaw was in 15. So just to give you a little update, if you look at some of the bylaws, you can tell what year it was put in. So 10 years we've had that piece of property, or longer than 10 years, and got $10,000. Okay, any other thing on that at all? Okay, moving on to 11.1, commercial development incentive application. So this is on a piece of property that's already received a incentive by the previous owner when there was renovations done to the property. Now it's been changed to a new landowner, and so it doesn't qualify for some of the incentive. You wanna-
So the first owner that did the renovations applied for the business incentive, and it was before we had the new policy in place. So at that point, it was a 50%, 30%, 20% over 3 years. In that time, they sold business. So the new business owners would like to keep that. First, they applied under the new policy, but of course, they didn't do the renovation, so it doesn't qualify. So in talking to Nancy, she asked if she asked them if acceptable to them, if they would bring it to council for, under the old agreement that we had, which would be the last year, the 20%. At the beginning of every year, through the policy, right before you pass the tax bylaw, I provide you with a list of tax exemptions through the policy. This is just requesting that this be done for that property, continuing with the agreement that was in place before. But part of that is you cannot, the reduction has to be passed in the year that the reduction happens. So 2018, council needs to make a formal motion for this property to have the 20% reduction in their taxes as part of the business incentive.
So that'll be the last of this.
That'll be the last of
Last,
this. So that will
and
be,
then they don't qualify for any of the other incentives under the new policy?
no, unless they do more renovation or,
Renovations.
Okay, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask. Have they done any renovations
I
to
don't
it?
believe so.
no. So this is just honoring the original agreement.
So when a business gets a tax break like this and they sell it, so is it automatically transferable?
No, that's what the new policy is with the ownership. That's why it has to come as a new one. If it was the same owner, we would have just brought it as a tax roll and continuing on. So, and since then, you've approved the new policy, and the new policy is very strict in the guidelines. You have to fill out the application, that sort of thing.
Are there any other businesses that are in the same situation, or is it a matter of if they were to be grandfathered in, it would be the only situation of
This
that?
is a very unique, this was one that was currently under the agreement, and now since you've changed it, this was under the old agreement, now you have a new policy in place, so all of the new ones fall under this policy. This is the last year of this one, since you changed the policy.
Okay, I was under the understanding with the giving them a break on their taxes, it was to help because renovations and that is so expensive.
Okay.
So it was to help get the business up and on its feet for that first couple of years.
Yes.
But this business hasn't done any renovations to it.
No, but they purchased a business that incentive was there.
Okay.
And at the same time, I mean, they're still paying for the renovations in other ways, in terms of newer building, higher taxes, like, you know what I mean? The costs are still in there, it's, even if it's not directly, and I know it's different.
And we don't know what the real estate agent might have sold it with this incentive on it too, not knowing that it died when they sold it too, so you never know
Yeah.
how it was sold to.
Anyway, they applied under the new policy and didn't qualify, so the
Right.
development officers brought it forward to see if council would honor the old agreement that was in place.
Now, we don't have to, it's just that, you know, it's,
Part of that
we
business
would have
support.
anticipated that we would have supported it anyway, under the old program.
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry, Michelle, sorry. You two sit too close together, and I can't see your name.
Yeah, you gotta flip that
That's
thing.
right.
You gotta flip that thing around.
That's okay. Now, there's no audience here, so it's for my assistance.
And we didn't
Okay.
all spend all day together.
Yeah, so I should know everything.
I mean, being that, you know, wanting to, it being, I'm gonna say a new business in the sense of even with the original orders, a new business, and wanting to promote that and kind of help that in the community, you know, I really think that grandfathered in, being that it is a unique situation and that there is a different set of circumstances, would make the most sense,
So is that your motion?
please.
Okay. Okay, so Michelle moves that approves a 20% tax reduction for 2018 tax year for 115 Second Street South.
Let's not use that address, just use the roll number.
Oh, okay,
We'll
sorry.
take the address out and just use the roll number, because
Oh.
that's how we
I
normally do it.
apologize, sorry. So account
If
number
we use the street address, we may have to FOIP it.
0530000.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. Now this will come back to us with the rest of the ones.
Because you'll approve it, we'll just add it.
Oh, okay.
This will be a one-time, and then
Okay.
before you set the mill rate, you will have the other ones that we currently have agreements with.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's carried. Okay, moving on to the strategic planning session. This is the one that we've kind of been talking about for a while. Originally, you know, in my opinion, the sooner the better, but we've got some dates that we kind of threw up there that could affect some of the councillors depending on who's affects Paul. Paul will be away. And this is personally something that I would like to see us all participate in as much as we can. Because then everybody hears from the same song sheet, you know, and so. We're not, and then Lyle, you're gone the end of January, which really puts a time crunch trying to get all this information together to do for the end of January. Lorna's not back until first part of
The
February.
29th of January, yeah.
I'm gone from February the 6th to the Friday on that tax course.
6th to the 9th.
Yeah.
Would earlier the next week, because Paul gets back into Great Falls on the, not to publicize where you're going on holidays on camera, but you get back into where you're arriving on the 15th and won't be home until the 16th.
Yeah. Assuming the weather's decent.
Would council be favorable to do it in the 19th is Family Day, is why, it's a short week as well. Would you be favorable to do it on, say, the 21st and 22nd of February?
How, have you discussed that with the better half?
Kind of, yeah, we've had brief conversations about it. Anytime that could happen, so.
I mean, we can push it off to February, to
Till
March.
March.
But if we do that, well, even if we do it, I think that we need to bring in to the next council meeting a proposal to start on the process of the street program for 2018.
So the 12th will make a proposal for the street program for 2018. If we can do it the 21st, 22nd, then the 26th would be the approval to put out the local improvements, that sort of thing. If council will
Because
agree,
they
well,
kind
it
of
gives you a chance
both
to talk
kind
about
of
it.
correspond, work together. We want to be able to talk about them both and the advantages and disadvantages and the amount of monies that we have. And so that brings in Janice's from the CFOs, and it also brings from the public works foreman and administrator on the street program on our 5 in our plan, so it kind of puts everybody, kind of messes up February to a degree for some of them, but the only advantage of doing that is that we get it together, we get all the council, unless somebody else has some dates that doesn't work for them. But
Are you interested and available the 21st, 22nd, Wednesday, Thursday?
does that work for everybody here right at the moment?
There's a good chance that, on a completely side note, I may miss the council meeting of the 26th. If things stay scheduled.
Yeah.
But Karen said she would be more than happy to take notes.
Okay, so why don't we shoot for that week, and we'll do our best to try and get it together.
I may drive home.
Yeah.
Council can stay and I can drive home.
Or maybe the other way around, maybe find a place for the kids and
Yeah,
she can come down.
she can stay.
Okay, so we need,
21st, 22nd?
yeah. And then the motion that we have here, so we'll direct council or administration to work on those dates, but the motion that we have here is to allow every councillor to participate in this event. So Lyle's moving that. And then Kim will look into the locations and tighten them up, and we'll go from there. We kind of had a bit of a discussion on the way home today about locations, whether the Sandman or wherever it was. We last time stayed out a little bit farther out by the casino.
The Best Western.
Best Western. It was good, and we discussed, pros and cons to it too. The disadvantages is, the advantage of this one is it's nice and close to places to eat, for our meals. The advantage out there, was
Private.
a little more private, but I don't know if that makes much difference.
I attended a session in the Sandman a few months ago, and they have a really nice, fairly intimate meeting room that's kind of set off from the hotel, but still there's the Denny's there to eat at, and some amenities inside the hotel that the other hotel didn't have. And their rates were very reasonable.
Yeah. Again, the theory of it is that we will show up there Friday morning, start our session, the Wednesday morning, start our sessions, go the full day, go for supper, fulfill our evening conversations and discussions, then start back over on the Thursday morning at 8 o'clock and go again till late afternoon supper. Then we can decide whether we want to go out for supper again like we did that last time or not. Invite our spouses down if we so desire. And hopefully the mayor's budget will be big enough that we can afford to.
Won't be if he keeps taking days off work.
Because that's on a personal one, it doesn't come out of the mayor's, because of Tom Grant's, I should say. So. Okay, so I'll move that. Any further discussion on it? Hearing that, all in favor?
And thank you for making the change.
You bet.
Okay, moving on to 11.3, the pickup truck tender. And again, this one here is to approve to move funds to pay for this.
Council's approved in their 25-year capital equipment replacement plan, putting money to reserve for. So this is on the list, the pickup and the gravel truck were the 2018 purchases that were approved on that list. So we tendered those, and council, the motions need to be where you're going to draw the funds from. Because they're coming from the common services reserve, they do need a specific motion from council on the amount of dollars to do that. So based on this, the pickup came in, as you saw, they were the only ones. We did the comparison with the one that was late, just to see that the costs were comparable. And so the recommendation was to accept the tender that was received, and they also would like to purchase the pickup in trade, and that's a very reasonable price for trade. And so the funds would be drawn from the common services reserve, not to exceed the difference in the balance.
Okay. Any question? Somebody wish to move this motion? Oh, we got to take Laura.
She's nicer.
No, it's just that the name's one that hasn't been on the paper as much as yours, so. Okay, any question on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. How much did we budget in that? Do you remember how much money we have?
We allocated, and that's what makes it hard with the 25-year plan, because you put $95,000 in, but that's a yearly amount.
Oh, I see,
You-
okay.
You have budget estimates and, based on that 95,000, and it was 100, the pickups are 27,000, and the truck was 125.
Oh,
The
okay.
gravel truck.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the gravel truck.
So as you can see from the gravel truck one and the tender opening and the final sheet, we confirmed, they did a clerical error on the math. They quoted it for $128,000, where if you do the math on it, it actually works out to $120,000. He thinks they added the optional items to it, but wanted to clarify and make sure that we amended it back down to the 120, so we did that for them based on doing that research. Each company provided multiple, basically what they did, as you can see by the quotes, they did the same gravel box, so Fort Garry does the same gravel box, Lethbridge Truck Equipment does the same gravel box, and then they gave different options with the chassis that will carry it around. So Stu went through, as well as myself, through the tender packages, compared with the specs that we put out, and the Kenworth from Fort Garry was the only one that met or exceeded all of the specs. All the rest of the trucks had some kind of deficiency in their specs somewhere. The Kenworth K370, you could say Lethbridge truck did a K270, just a different series of truck, lighter GVW, things like that. So this is a heavier truck. So after everything was said and done, Stu made the recommendation for the Fort Garry Kenworth. Now, that was based on comparing specs and equipment. So through that, because of the price, he also asked council to consider adding the optional items. The optional items, what that is a hydraulic package and electrical package, so that our current sander that you all saw sitting on the floor in the shop, it can be put into the new truck as well. So now we would have two trucks that are interchangeable for the same sander. So it is an option. It is $8,000. It does fall fairly within $3,000 of what was originally anticipated for the cost of the truck, but that's really up to council to decide whether you'd like to add that option, because we did it as an optional item. So
But there is huge advantages. That way they'd have two trucks. If one breaks down, they could put the sander in the opposite, vice versa. So, you know, for the purchase price of that, it's probably not that bad. That's partly why I asked what we kind of guesstimated we had to replace the truck in. So we're pretty close, and if we are able to sell the Hino and get some money, that'll go back into that,
Into the
or
reserve.
potentially go back into that reserve.
And Tom mentioned something on the way down to Lethbridge. I need to remove, we have sold things in the past through Canada Public Auction, but we need to remove the word Canada on there, because that's a specific auction company, and we want to be able to do it at any public auction. So if council would like to dispose of the Hino, we'll do it through just public auction, not through one specific company.
Okay, so any thoughts or philosophies on the first motion? Hearing none, somebody wish to move it? Okay, George Lee. Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to the second part of that one, to sell it at public auction. Any questions, thoughts?
I'll make the motion as amended.
Paul moves as amended. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Notices of motion? Hearing none, so we'll move on to management reports. Mr. Foss.
So you all had a chance to read the report. We did the public works equipment through the Christmas holidays. Obviously saw that and approved it, so thank you for that. We conducted the facility tours. Do apologize for the two that did go over in time frame, but we thought we were doing pretty good, but engaged in a really good discussion. I hope everybody enjoyed those. We did get a suggestion that maybe we could try to do it as a group on a small bus next time. I think that just to engage council into some good dialogue, I think would be really, really good. So we can look at doing that in, say, 2 years, kind of an update in the middle of your term. The industrial land use strategy, obviously everybody attended the meeting, and they're gonna put the final touches on the report and bring it back. And because it was done through BBDS and it's available to both communities, really an acknowledgement, a motion that you accept the report at a future council meeting will probably be the best way to proceed with it. And that way it can be used as part of our intermunicipal development plans, that sort of thing. Tourism, we've been doing a lot of work. We have the ads out in the paper. Thank the tourism committee for putting a name forward to help us with that hiring. I think that's makes it a lot more transparent on how we're doing things, and the society's been really helpful in giving us access to everything inside there to help us get things on the go. So the next 2 months are going to be a little frantic, but hopefully by the time everything shakes out, we'll be ready to tackle just about anything down there. So that's the plan. And then the strategic planning, all of the councillors have starting to put their documentation together. All of the department heads are putting together their top 5 priorities of projects that they're working on over this term council, and I'm going to supply you with a document to fill out your top 10. We'll put all that stuff together. It's kind of a neat process because it's a top 10 council before you go into it, and then at the end of it we do it a top 10 on how you feel, through the discussions, if your priorities have changed, and then we put those into a list for what you would like to accomplish during this term. So it's kind of a neat practice, and we'll see if your opinions change and your priorities through this process. So quite looking forward to it. I'll get you the paperwork hopefully this week. I'll get it all out to you. And one thing that'd be involved in this one that we didn't do last time is included in your priorities specific ideas, and then ideas for funding of where you think funding should be drawn from and approximate costs. So that's going forward with that. You'll see through the other reports with Nancy and Stu, we met with SEMA to go through the capital projects for 2017 and then our 5-year plan update. That was basically the administration talking to our engineers to bring forward our ideas of what we would like to get cost estimates for so that we can bring into council. And then my meetings of interest, the tender openings, the industrial land use strategy and whatnot. Of course, I missed a week in there with holidays, so that's my December.
Any questions for Mr. Foth?
What's SEMA?
SEMA Plus is, we call them BSEI, but they actually were amalgamated into SEMA Plus, which is a bigger agency. I have a really bad habit of continuing to call them BSEI, but their official name is SEMA Plus.
Engineers.
So there are engineers.
Any questions on that while we're on it with Kim with the facility tours? I know that some of you guys have had this as your first time on it. Some of the 3 of us, I guess, have had it before. Any questions on pros, cons, likes, dislikes of, did you think it would be worth it, or?
It's definitely worth it.
Now, do you think we need to do it on a yearly basis? Like normally we've done it only, well, last time was our first kick at it. We just did it once for everybody, but because you're on for 4 years, do you want to do one again next year, or do you want to leave it for 2 years before we do it? Again, because of not being an election year, we could do it earlier in the year, which Stu kind of mentioned, that we get to see some of the street conditions, most of us get an opportunity to walk them or ride them or drive them or anyway, but you get to see some of the streets. If we did them earlier, sidewalks, could talk about the programs for the sidewalks. If we did it earlier, it'd be before the budget. So you can say, well, geez, you know, we think that more sidewalks need done, or less sidewalks need to be done, or more ramps. And so when we go into the budget, we can give them administration direction. What's your feelings, folks?
I'd like to do it again in 2 years, because, I mean, for me, this is, I've been by them all, but to actually go in and see, but it's also a lot to take in, and then I'd be able to better relate in a couple of years, because oh yeah, I've been there, and now I can understand a little bit more, for me anyways.
And then I believe it was Lyle's suggestion to, and we've done it in the past, or in the past when we did the streets, we rented or acquired a bus. And like everybody's in the same bus, so you hear the same song and dance once from one person, but yet somebody might have a question that was pertinent that got asked, but we kind of forgot about it before, between the tours. And so what do you think of something like that, Michelle?
I mean, in terms of, you know, the water treatment plant is not going to change on a yearly basis. However, maybe next year, you know, yes, do the walk around of the streets and have that focus. And then, you know, in the second year, go back and do the full. Is that?
Yeah, and again,
So do it
there's
every
not,
year.
Yeah,
there's
but
nothing wrong
Different
with it.
focuses.
Yeah,
I mean,
instead of-
none of you, I don't believe, got to see the other lift station, which is an irrelevant lift station, but yet it's
Our manhole.
our manhole, but it's a lift station. And so, you know, again, there are other things that we maybe could alter in our
And
tour.
one of the things that I was thinking about would be, yeah, if you'd like to do it more frequently, there are things that we are partners in, and, you know, tours of the library, the FCSS, the food bank, the tourist center, those sort of things, not just the walking through the door and the meeting that you normally go to, but through the mechanical, through the building itself, how things can be changed, some of the those are things that on a 3-hour tour we couldn't do, but if we stretched it out to, you know, 3/4 of a day and did it every year, we could focus on streets and infrastructure in 1 year. We could programming and services. We could focus on another year if it's something council gets value out of. If it's just riding around in a bus, scratching your head and seeing the same things over and over again.
Well, and there are other things that we, you know, like Kim says, you know, we can discuss too, and like, you know, the areas of the community I'd mentioned to Michelle, and I'm not sure everybody else knows that we have over 100 pieces of properties in this community that doesn't pay zero taxation. You know, what are some of them, you know, like, and where are they at? And, so we can maybe add that into our tour, but it has nothing to do with the facilities as much as saying, you know, the track and that might be used by the school system, but it belongs to the town. You know, how joint use facilities, you know, what the philosophy on the joint use facilities, how it works and how it doesn't work, and what's in relationship to it. So anyway, I just thought that, well, Kim talked about, you know, the tour was one thing that he put time and effort in and took us around, which was greatly appreciated. I was gonna say mighty appreciated, but it was greatly appreciated. And the time that Stu and Kim and the staff put into trying to figure out which direction to go. So if it's agreeable, again, you know, I didn't know how you guys felt, because it's the first opportunity I've had to talk about. So if that's agreeable, we'll try and
Put something together next year.
And again, this year is kind of tough because of the election, and trying to get everything done before Christmas is pretty hard. But on the other hand, if we could do it earlier in the fall this year, you know, prior to budget or in the budget process, then there might be something that, you know, you spot that says, oh geez, you know, by the way, you know, at the cemetery maybe we need to add an extra culvert around here, you know, because it's wet or whatever, you know, you can see it and more so hear about it. Okay, sounds good. Anything else on Kim's? Okay, here none, we'll move on to Nancy's, I guess, is it?
Yes,
Yeah, Nancy's is next. When she had the charts in there, I
throws it off.
threw it off for me there.
That's her year-end
Yeah.
comparisons. Just again, mention the home and garden show for the first, fourth, and getting your name in for volunteering.
It's kind of interesting to hear some of the comments about,
From this new residents or?
from the new residents, yeah. Fix the streets, potholes, pave Main Street, indoor pool. Okay. Tim Hortons. Okay.
How long have we been trying for Tim Hortons?
Anyway, it's kind of neat to see some of these stats and see how we fared from year to year. And so any questions on any of Nancy's? Before we move on to Stu's, I was at a meeting with the engineers, no, architects of the new hospital. And the fellow that was there, his name is Scott, I don't remember what his last name, said that this was the easiest and the nicest community he's ever applied for information from NPC and development officer to start a program. He says he appreciates that it'll be the contractor that'll be taking out the permits, but he says this was the most easiest one he's ever done in his entire life. So, feather in the cap of Nancy and NPC and the town staff for that process. So they'll be coming back in February or March. So,
Thank you for passing that on.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to Public Works. So did anybody get did Kim turn on the lights in the arena for anybody to see what the light looks like on there?
The first group saw the ice on, the lights on the ice.
Yeah, we saw it. Okay. So anyway, that was another one that was discussed, but did the rest of them discuss the boilers?
Yes, yeah, we all went through the boilers.
Okay. So those will be another one that I'm not sure whether Stu will add on to his thing for.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure if it'll hit as priority, but he wanted to make sure that it did.
Okay.
You
So-
guys were the only ones that didn't see the compressor room.
Yeah.
When Michelle and Tom went, Star Tech was in doing their mid-season on the compressor. We thought with what's going on in the province and the exposure to ammonia that we wouldn't take them in there.
Yeah, I've never been exposed to ammonia to any degree. Chlorine.
All kinds of other.
gas.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So.
okay. Anything on the facilities with streets? For some of you that didn't come in through the main street, some of the street lights have been started to be put up. They weren't lit, but they were
Lit, but they were up.
they're up. I thought when I talked to Stu the other day when they were unloading them, that was another thing when Michelle and I were
Happened in the middle of our tour.
happened on our tour that they arrived. I thought Stu had said that there was a substantial difference in height, but we only think that I said about 3 or 4 feet difference between the lights. I thought it looked kind of good, but anyway.
They're pretty sharp looking.
So I guess the question I have on that is, are we taking out the poles or are they
No,
taking?
they're taking them all when they're done.
Oh, okay.
They just didn't want to have any interruption in the service because it's, of
Right.
course, the dark season, so we needed street lights down there, so
I didn't know whether.
they don't want to miss a day.
With Stu doing the coordinating, whether he felt that he could take it out himself.
That truck they have for picking, those things are so fragile that as soon as the wiring's done, they'll just pop them all.
Okay. All right, so that'll come off Stu's list. He's not gonna have a list of anything left to do.
From September, when they were due.
And I'm not sure if he mentioned on the tour again that and that was part of the reason why our tours was altered a little bit. The Public Works group worked with Hagen Electric to remove that pump and reinstall it down at the lake. That might be another one that would be of interest, is take us
To go down there.
down there. I know that it's almost a fair weather one again, to go down to the,
We want to take a bus
Intake.
down there in the wintertime.
where the intake is at. So again, it really is of interest more so to the Water Commission people. But on the other hand, same with the tank is another one for the Water Commission members. But I'm not sure if the Water Commission, do they do it too?
No, I don't think so.
It might be something to consider for the, to show the other members exactly when they talk about intake of the river, and like Stu was just saying that right now they're taking water, or took water, but the high level one is sticking out of the water. And so you can kind of go down there and see. But anyway. Anything else on Stu's? I kind of,
Yeah, Stu was gonna give Kathy some pictures of pump installation.
oh, good, that's good for you guys.
Yeah.
I did get an email from CP, I call them CPR, but they're just CP, thanking the town. Here it's from Mike Lovechko, I probably really butchered his name. He says, "Dear Mayor Grant, thank you very much for participating in the 19th year of the CP holiday train, and it is completed on December 22nd. CP announced that 2017 holiday train raised more than $1.5 million and 300,000 pounds of food for the food banks during the tour. We further estimate that more than 425,000 people attended one of the 150 CP train holiday trains events across the 6 Canadian provinces and 11 American states where the company operates." So anyway, I sent back, thank you very much for making Vulcan part of the group, or part of the tour. And it usually comes through our community every 2 years. I mean, it comes through every year, but we only see it every 2 years, it stops. So anyway, I just thought I'd add that to it, well, because the Public Works went in there, they mowed that whole area, they prepared it so they could have a fire pit, but the weather was so nice and it was so dry, they didn't have that fire pit. And they supplied barricades and support, and so. Anyway, any questions else for that? So anyway, moving on to community service. No, this one here is Bonnie's community services report. So her name changed.
Yeah,
from-
so
Go
I
ahead.
guess I should explain that. Through this process of amalgamating tourism and recreation departments, Bonnie's title has changed to Community Services Manager. So that way, she's not giving you just a rec report or just a tourism report. It'll allow her to cover off on all of that.
Okay, so anything on there? The first one was just an update on the ad hoc committee or working on the swimming pool programming, arena sound system. Okay, any question on the Bonnies? Okay, moving on to the peace officers. Any questions on that one?
I noticed his warnings are going up. His tickets are going down. But then,
Yeah.
I haven't seen what it's about either.
Yeah, and again, he's refocusing on education as he changes areas of focus. He gives a first little while of warning, tickets.
That's right.
So as he changes location, he uses an educational approach to start with and then shifts to an enforcement approach.
Okay, any questions on Justin's? Okay, moving on to the fire department. questions? All right, somebody wish to move the management reports? Okay, Laura. Any question on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, in camera we have nothing, but before we go to adjournment, I mentioned earlier that I would talk about what found out about the in camera. I asked, and this guy remembered, Laura asked the same question to them. He was there for that. He said that if you do an in-camera session, like let's say we had an in-camera session tonight, Lorna's not here, and let's say that we did it with Bob Shear as an example. We cannot have another in-camera session to bring Lorna up to speed without inviting Bob Shear back. Because the information that Bob Shear gave should be given directly from Bob Shear to the whole group with Lorna. But let's say that we had another item that came, especially if it was in print. This was given to us in print to discuss in camera. We discussed it in camera, but Lorna wasn't here. The next time we want to bring Lorna up to speed, we can have another in-camera session, that same piece of information, because it's written and it's not a verbal change. So you could do it that way. Or the other question when I asked them about is that if you had an in-camera session and Lorna was away, but the next in-camera session, Paul's going to be away. He says, I wouldn't recommend it, bringing Lorna up to speed, because Paul's not there and we could misrepresent what Paul said at the second in-camera session. So he said, be careful of that. He said, any of that area is, so that's why he says, unless somebody brings more of it up, he says, I won't bring it up on the in-camera session thing, because it was trying to be specific to the three things. He says, what you're trying to do is make sure that whatever is said in that first session is related to the second session, almost identical, so that who's ever there is there. So I'm not sure if that totally answered any questions on that or not.
And it's pretty hard to make sure it's identical because you're not supposed to take notes.
No, it isn't, but there are times when we do have it in writing, like a concern that's came, well, he used a legal, let's say it came from a lawyer, and because Lorna's not here, really, how is she going to make an informed decision? But, we could have another in-camera session, give her the piece of paper, discuss it again, but he says you gotta be really careful if one of us aren't there the second time around. Because again, if Paul had lots of input into that, but he wasn't there for the second group, do we relay that information that Paul had fairly? So they said, yeah, be careful of that. He said, the theory, he says, hopefully you don't run into that very often, but you can see where, it was the one with Sue was away and how it affected, so.
However, on the flip side, if I'm away and then the next time it's brought up and I'm expected to vote on it, how can I really give a succinct and complete?
Right, and he used that same example too, to a degree. It's something similar to how can you vote? You cannot legally vote on a bylaw for the second reading if you miss the public hearing. So that's why you would declare, not a preliminary interest, but you would declare that you were not at the public hearing. So you'd do the same thing on that. Let's say the issue was to deal with this piece of paper, or the verbal one from Bob, that was in camera, and comes back, so then there's a direction by council, you didn't feel that you could answer it because you weren't at that one. That's when you would declare it and then you step out of the room and not vote.
And that it would fall
That's
under
where he said that one would probably never fail in court.
Right.
If you took it back.
Because you weren't there.
You're
for
still
that.
supposed to vote on it,
Right.
but you could declare it, and if somebody decided to fight it, there's a good chance you would not lose.
Yeah. And again, some of the stuff that they talked about today too, remember he talked about there's no case history on A or no case history on B, the Fort McLeod issue, there was lots of case history on that one there, because that one did go to court, you know, and the mayor lost. So I should say there's lots of case history, there's a case history now for that one of how it turned out. So I just thought, because I said to George Lee, when George Lee asked me, I just felt that I didn't have enough time or
In the meeting.
in the meeting or, you know, to try and discuss it, so. You got any more questions on the in-camera one there? Again, even throughout our whole procedure, if you have an issue, you know, even more or less, like they said, it's up to you to call up pecuniary interest. If you have a question, question us, you know, and, you know, unless, you know, it's a real controversial one, most of us are gonna just say it's up to you, make that decision yourself, or no, I think you are, or no, I don't think you are. One I can go back on is how Harold Lewis, he was selling for a pipe company, and they were bidding on pipe for a project in the town of Vulcan. And he declared it as a pecuniary interest. Most of us felt that it wasn't, but if you listen today, it does, because he worked for an employer that was bidding on a project that inside the town, that potentially, again, I don't think he'd ever lose that one in a court of law either, because, you know, Harold was bidding it to a contractor who was bidding on the town of Vulcan's project, but he also bid that same pipe to 4 of the contractors that bid the project, so I mean, how are you going to, it would have been that would be another one I don't think you'd lose in the court of law, but there was an example too. So Harold declared it, he left, and then, again, so. I'm not sure if tomorrow, if we're gonna go over, you know, if you want something on your name to be declared on a motion that, you know, you want it recorded, you have to call for the recording before the motion is called for the question on. I don't know if they'll go that deep into that one tomorrow or not. Probably not, because that's more on the rules and responsibilities, more so than what we were talking about today. But anyway, any questions on what happened today, like any of the stuff? Okay, so tomorrow morning we're heading down again.
I'll drive this tomorrow.
So if anybody wants to, I'm going to travel with Kim for sure.
I'm picking up George Lee and Paul in the morning.
What about you?
I'm going to see my boy.
Oh, okay, no, not a problem. It's just we want to make sure that everybody had a ride.
Do you want picked up?
I'll
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else? A motion to adjourn. George Lee, all in favor? Thank you.